6 years! It has been exactly 6 years since Sucker Punch took a massive gamble and dropped us onto a devastatingly beautiful Japanese island filled with Mongol invaders. Right now, we are sitting in 2026, and the gaming industry feels a bit exhausted. We are constantly hit with massive 100-gigabyte updates, forced live service battle passes, and huge open worlds that feel like empty spreadsheets designed just to keep you logging in daily. So I decided to go back. I reinstalled a game that many people called an absolute masterpiece back in the day, just to see if our deep nostalgia was playing tricks on us. Because let us be brutally honest, a lot of games we hyped up half a decade ago feel incredibly clunky and outdated today. I booted it up, skipped the initial load screen, which still takes barely 2 seconds by the way, and rode my horse straight into the Golden Forests. What I found after spending another full 50 hours with Jin Sakai completely changed how I look at modern video games.
The very first thing that hits you, even now in 2026, is the absolute masterclass in art direction. Today, developers are insanely obsessed with pumping millions of polygons into a single rock, or making sure the puddles reflect light perfectly using heavy ray tracing. Ghost of Tsushima straight up does not care about raw pixel counts. Instead, it uses color, dynamic movement, and pure atmosphere to create a painting that actually breathes. The way the wind aggressively sweeps through huge fields of pampas grass, the vibrant red and yellow leaves falling naturally around you during an intense duel, the dark ash floating in the air in your burned-down villages. It all feels so alive. They made the user interface completely invisible, forcing you to look at the world itself instead of staring at a boring minimap in the corner of your screen. The wind itself guides you. You simply swipe the touchpad, the wind blows, the trees bend, and you know exactly where you need to go. It is such a brilliant, simple mechanic, yet almost no modern game has managed to copy it successfully. We are all still chasing glowing dots on compasses in most new releases today. But there is a hidden danger in making a world this visually stunning. It is very easy to hide shallow, repetitive gameplay behind pretty graphics. A beautiful samurai sword is completely useless if it cannot actually cut.
That brings us to the blood and steel of the experience. The combat system in this game is something I could honestly talk about for hours. When it first launched, a lot of casual players compared it to standard counterattack systems we have seen a million times. Going back to it now, with a fresh perspective, that comparison feels almost insulting. The swordplay here has a very specific rhythm, a deadly dance that demands your absolute full attention. You are not just mashing buttons to deplete a spongy health bar, you are smoothly switching stances mid-swing to break the heavy guard of a spearman, instantly dodging a massive brute, and then delivering a flawless, perfect parry to a quick swordsman. It feels heavy, it feels dangerous, especially if you play on lethal difficulty, which is the absolute best way to experience this journey. On lethal, you can die in 1 or 2 hits, but so can the enemies. This completely removes the spongy enemy problem we see in so many modern action role-playing games today. Every single encounter is a fast, brutal test of your reflexes. You flick the blood off your blade after a flawless standoff, and you genuinely feel like a legendary warrior. The controller vibration, the sharp clash of metal, the instant response to your button presses, it all blends into pure gaming perfection. Yet, as flawless as the sword fighting feels in your hands, you are forced to make a choice that the game constantly judges you for. You see, the entire narrative strictly revolves around the deep conflict between fighting with strict honor and doing whatever it takes to survive. Jin Sakai was raised as a proud samurai, taught from childhood to look his enemy directly in the eye. But the Mongol Empire does not care about your honor. They use brutal terror, deadly poison, and overwhelming numbers to crush everything. To save his home and his people, Jin has to slowly abandon everything his father figure, Lord Shimura, taught him. He has to become the ghost. He has to strike from the shadows like an assassin. This is where the actual gameplay and the story perfectly merge together. You, the player, feel the exact same temptation. Taking out 10 heavily armed guards in a straight sword fight is tough and risky. Dropping from a high roof, assassinating 3 of them in a quick chain, and throwing a sticky bomb into the rest is incredibly easy. The game makes the dishonorable path incredibly fun to play, but the story constantly reminds you of the heavy moral cost of your actions. Jin's voice actor delivers an absolutely unbelievable performance. You can clearly hear the pain and the hesitation in his voice during the early hours, which slowly turns into cold, ruthless determination by the end of the campaign. The final confrontation of the game remains one of the most heartbreaking and beautifully directed sequences in all of gaming history. But while the emotional peak is incredibly high, the actual mechanics of being the ghost show some serious cracks when we look at them through a modern lens.
We have to talk about the stealth system. In 2026, stealth games have evolved significantly, and returning to Tsushima's stealth mechanics feels like stepping back into a much older era of gaming. The enemy artificial intelligence is basically blind and deaf most of the time. You can assassinate a guard, and his friend standing 15 feet away might just casually look around for 3 seconds before calmly going back to his patrol route. There is no complex shadow hiding mechanic, no advanced sound propagation system, just basic tall grass and simple line of sight. It gets the job done, but it severely lacks the incredible depth of the open sword combat. And this leads directly into the structure of the open world itself. While the main story quests and the major side missions are absolutely incredible, a lot of the minor side content has not aged well at all. We have played way too many games in our lives where we have to follow footprints on the muddy ground or track a specific target. Ghost of Tsushima relies heavily on this outdated mission design. You talk to a crying villager, you ride to a destroyed camp, you find footprints, you follow them to some random bandits, you clear the camp, you return. It becomes very repetitive very quickly. Even the fox dens and the bamboo strikes, which feel magical the first 10 times you interact with them, start to feel like a massive checklist by the time you are trying to clear the third region of the map. However, just when you start to feel the total fatigue of the open world checklist, the game throws something at you that completely pulls you right back in.
That something is the flawless presentation of its major side stories, known as the Mythic tales. These are not your standard, boring fetch quests. They are deeply rooted in the island's folklore and are introduced through beautifully animated inkwash paintings narrated by a blind musician. They send you hunting across the map for legendary armor sets or forbidden combat techniques, and the rewards are actually totally worth the effort. The progression system here is fantastic because it physically changes how you play and how you look in the world. Every single piece of armor provides specific gameplay benefits, and you can upgrade them, dye them with different colors, and mix them with various hats and terrifying masks. I actually found myself changing my outfit based on the weather and the specific type of mission I was doing, just for the pure roleplay aspect. This deep immersion is heavily tied to the phenomenal sound design. The music by Ilan Eshkeri and Shigeru Umebayashi is nothing short of a masterpiece. The heavy, intimidating drums when the Mongols attack, the lonely, haunting bamboo flute when you are riding your horse through a devastated village, it elevates every single moment. Even the subtle environmental sounds, like the crisp crunch of snow under your boots in the northern region, or the terrifying battle cries of the heavy brutes, add layers of realism that make you completely forget you are holding a plastic controller in your hands. I also have to mention the Iki Island expansion that came with the director's cut. Going back to it now, Iki Island represents some of the absolute best storytelling Sucker Punch has ever delivered. It forces Jin to directly confront the dark legacy of his own father, the deep trauma of his past, and deals heavily with complex themes of forgiveness and guilt. The enemies over there are significantly tougher. The shamans force you to completely change your combat priorities on the fly, and the environment feels even more wild and untamed than the main island. It perfectly complements the base game experience. And while you are exploring all of this beautifully crafted world, you will inevitably spend hours in the photo mode. Ghost of Tsushima basically set the golden industry standard for photo modes. Even today, in 2026, developers are still struggling to copy the features Sucker Punch gave us years ago. The ability to manually control the wind direction, change the time of day, add falling leaves, and even change the background music track while you frame the perfect shot is simply unmatched. Technically, the game still runs like an absolute dream today. Whether you are playing the director's cut on a modern console or a high-end PC setup, the optimization is absurdly good. Fast travel is basically instantaneous. You select a location on the completely opposite side of the massive map, blink your eyes, and you are literally right there. No awkward loading screens, hiding behind tight caves, or long, boring elevator rides. The game totally respects your time. And that brings up the big question of replay value. Once you finish the heavy, emotionally draining story and clear the map, is there an actual reason to go back? The Legends multiplayer mode was a shocking addition back then, offering a deep supernatural co-op experience that had absolutely no right being as good as it was, and it did it with absolutely zero predatory microtransactions. Even purely single-player fans have the New Game Plus mode, which offers exclusive new dyes and powerful charms, letting you experience the entire journey again with all your hard-earned skills from the start. Yet the real reason you come back to Tsushima is not for a completionist checklist or a fancy new armor dye. You come back purely because of how it makes you feel inside. In an era where modern games are desperately trying to be interactive movies with overly complicated control schemes or endless live service models designed to slowly drain your wallet, this game stands tall as a pure, focused, artistic vision. It set out to make you feel exactly like a wandering samurai in feudal Japan, and it achieved that goal with absolute perfection. It deeply respects its source material, taking heavy inspiration from classic Akira Kurosawa samurai films, and delivers a complete, satisfying package right out of the box, without asking for more money. Yes, the open-world structure is a bit traditional and safe. Yes, the stealth mechanics are far too simplistic for today's standards. But the incredibly addictive core gameplay loop, the breathtaking art style, and the heavy emotional weight of Jin's ultimate sacrifice easily overpower these minor flaws. This game is a permanent reminder of exactly what the gaming medium can achieve when passionate developers are allowed to craft a singular, beautiful experience without corporate greed ruining it. Taking all of this into account, looking at it through the harsh and critical lens of 2026, I am giving Ghost of Tsushima a very solid 4.8 out of 5. It is an undeniable, hardcore classic that every single person needs to play at least once in their life. It has aged beautifully, proving once and for all that incredible art direction and tight, responsive combat will always outlast raw graphical power and trendy gimmicks. It is not just a video game. It is an unforgettable experience that stays with you long after the final credits roll. Let me know down in the comments what your absolute favorite moment from the game was, and if you think it still holds up against the games we were playing today. If you enjoyed this review and want to see more honest, deep dives into the games we all love, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with a friend who still has not played this masterpiece. Keep gaming, and I will catch you in the next one.